Okay, this is a contour line. And a contour line describes a form. It'll sit along a form. Okay, so this is this line goes around this sphere. Okay, so it's a line that goes around something. Okay, or describes the surface. So that would be called a contour. There's also lines. This is a line here. I guess that my type came on here. There's also lines like this wire. When it's so thin, you don't really perceive the dimensional quality of the roundness of the wire. It starts to look like a line. Okay, so telephone wires, narrow tree branches in the distance. At a certain point, they're going to appear as lines rather than forms. Okay, they're going to reduce down to lines. Okay. Then we have this kind of a line. We have a tracking line. A tracking line is a line that you perceive it's a line in motion. This kind of line is a tracking line, and this line is a line that you'll perceive in motion. Okay, so contrails and things. This is the kind of thing that you might look at or consider if you were making a film or video or something, because it requires a time to go through. But you can see if you have one line, now I have a few more lines. Now I have a few more lines, you can get really, create a real sense of chaos. If the lines are all very linear and they're all in order and stuff, you can create some order to it. If lines are crossing in a certain way and really regular, you can build monotony. So the more similar they are, the more monotonous they're going to be. And the more difference there is, the more chaotic it'll be. Okay? Harmony is going to sit somewhere in the middle. Okay? Okay. Now, there's other kinds of lines that we have as well. The lines here is going to be created through, there's eye lines. She's looking in a certain direction. Okay? This is kind of an illustration of Cinderella's dream, and she's looking in a certain direction. So her eye line is a strong line. And then we see these little vignettes of little experiences that she has. And in these images, there's these little, different vignettes. There's like a light blue circle around these bubbles. Okay, she's washing the floor, and the bubbles kind of come up and create these images as she's remembering what the dance was. And if you take a look at this, there's a couple different kinds of lines going on. Now, there's intersecting planes behind her. Okay, the walls changing value; those are intersecting planes, and the one directly behind her is tonal contrast and intersecting planes. Okay, there's one in front of her that is less contrast. It's still intersecting planes, but there's a little less contrast. So the one behind her actually works as a framing element that keeps your eye from floating out of the picture. So it's used as a little bit dominant component there. There's also an element here we call closure. Okay, and closure is where you have like multiple focal points in your image. A couple people or multiple focal points, and what will happen there is your eye will create this imaginary line from one area to another. So that you have an eye line, that's an implied line. That's not a physical line. And I can demonstrate that. So in this case, we have her sitting here, and she has an eye line off this, well, more of a profile, I guess, off of this way. Right? So if we set up an eye line this way, or a head in, if her head is in this direction, let's just say. Okay, this creates this implied line. It's a line that we perceive. It's not a physical line. It's an implied line. So we have this eye line, and eye lines are very, very strong. So when you're painting or drawing people, It's a very strong component in that design. In this case, we have these bubbles. She's looking at one bubble, and the outside of that bubble, we get a line, and that would be that's a tonal contrast on there because it's just a soft light line on there. So that's just a tonal contrast line creating that line. But this is becomes a focal point. Okay. We also have a castle over here like this. It's vertical. These shapes are different than these shapes, right? So that's what makes that castle different than everything else. We have another one over here with the evil stepmother in it, right? Here we have the two dancing. Okay. Here we have the pumpkin. We have another image in one up here. And these are little standout images. There's another one back over here with the mice this way. Okay? So in this case, we're getting this eye line that goes here, but we also get what's called closure. When we have multiple focal points, our eyes go to these different focal points. Okay? And so our eyes, we have a tendency to want to connect the dots. So this is an eye line. And this from here to here to here, this kind of a thing, these are closure. And that's important to keep an eye on and maintain. You see, what I did was I drew over this, and I showed you where these how the lines kind of work. The yellow lines create this closure. She has an axis line. That's a red line. That's kind of a curved line. There's the blue lines of the walls where you have turning planes. You have her axis that serves as a line. It's a directional implied line there. It's not a physical line. It's just implied through her gesture. And then an eye line, okay? And we also get an eye line with the other characters, the mice and the stepmother as well, okay? So those are implied lines as well. And then the closure, if you look at the white lines, again, you're going to see closure coming up to these, from circle to circle like this. They're going to create these implied lines all the way around. So you're going to get this movement around here. You're going to get movement around the castle because you're going to have these other lines kind of merging like this. This one being cropped out. Since we don't see the whole thing, it doesn't become dominant. It's a fraction of a circle, so it's feeding our eye in here. So we're moving our eye around like this. The question is did the artist actually think this through before, while they were designing it? And yes, they actually thought all of this through when they were designing it. That's what makes these stand beyond the other cartoons that you see. Okay? They're crafted. Some of these older films that these guys did, they were studying fine art. They were studying how images work, and they were putting those elements together in creating this new art form of animation. That was then. This is now. It's a lot different. A lot of times now, they don't think of a lot of these things, okay? Because they don't have the same depth of understanding of the art form. So that's why you see some things that look classic, if you will, and some don't, okay? Because they have not only just inherited, but they put forward these the tools that great masters used throughout history. I guess the question really is, or stating, I'm just repeating your statement. Yeah, it is correct that closure is the effect of an implied line. It's our wanting to connect the dots. And so you might have multiple focal points. You might have little elements that capture your attention throughout your image. And what ends up happening is your eye will connect those dots. And that creates an implied line. It's not physically in your image, but that will help move your eye through your piece of art. Okay? So where you have these little accents, your eye will connect dot to dot to dot. So that will happen there. Then that would be closure. Again, eye line is a strong element. It's a very, very strong element. And I can show you in a little demonstration here too. If I have 3 heads, I can have this one, I'll do a profile. So if I do a profile, and this is my face this way, right? So I have a strong eye line out this way, right? This is, okay? If I do another one and say, okay, my eye line is straightforward, okay? So now I have this straightforward, and this kind of locks us in. We're kind of frozen with this effect because you see, we don't get a movement. It's just, we're just stuck right there. There isn't a movement anywhere. They're just the eyes. This one creates this implied line over here. Now, if I have, say, a head this way, and the axis is over here, right? And the nose is this way. My eyes are here. I'm going to do this. Okay? If I do this, okay? Now what happens with this, my goofy cartoon here, what happens with this is now all of a sudden I get the face, which works as a plane. You know, if I do this is the front of the face, and I'm looking at the frontal surface of the face, right? I have this front surface going this way and this way, right? And my nose is here reinforcing that. But so the frontal surface of my face is going this way, right? But my eyes are going this way. Look how much more dynamic this image is than these two. Because I set up the head going one direction and I make my eyes going the other direction. Okay? And we can see that in a number of classic images too. I mean, even when there's an image, it might have an image of someone praying. If I look at some old artwork from a long time ago where someone's head is down like this, right? And they might be praying. See this in some religious paintings. So their head is down like this, but their eyes are up here. That creates a really strong dynamic between the axis or this frontal plane of their face and where their eyes are looking. Because the surface is aiming this way, your eye line is going that way, it creates a lot more drama. So this creates drama in your imagery. Yeah, the question is looking at altarpieces and things like that. Exactly. Take a look at those and see which ones work like this. You're going to find that some Byzantine artwork kind of works straight ahead like this. And then after the Renaissance, they started adding this dynamic quality into their artwork, where they might have a frontal plane going one direction, like this, right? Going this way, and then the eyes are going a different direction. And that creates drama. I think, documented from what I've read, he had a strong interest in they were developing a craft. Nobody had ever made a feature film before. Nobody made a feature-length animated film before. And he knew that he had to increase the quality of the artwork and elevate all of the artists in order to make something that would be compelling enough to sit there and watch for an hour or more. Okay? And he threw that down at the animators, and also got people involved to come in and talk and teach on a regular basis. So after work, they had many of the over at Chenard. What they did was they give them model time, tuition free. So after work, they would go draw. And one of the instructors over there, Don Graham, ended up coming into the studio and teaching regularly there. And so they were all really, really looking at art history, fine art, and building off of that. Because in their mind, what they were doing is they were creating a new art form, and that's what was going on. So they were pulling from all the best that they could find. So it was a really, really interesting growing process that they were doing. And some of the notes and lectures are documented, so you can read those now. And so that's a real positive kind of a thing. You know, that wasn't available for a lot of years. But then you see how, and from my years working there and doing research, going into the archives and stuff, I saw their references, and I saw what they were looking at, and you can tell. I mean, they were going back to the basics. They went from cave paintings through all different periods, and they were looking at it all. So, and finding ways to apply it, which is exciting.